That was my cat crying for attention. Bones, shut up. Oh, okay. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melanie Tana. I love to talk about stories in all different forms. And today I'm back with another video, and I'm talking about another YA book that I really loved. I was just perusing the young adult section at a bookstore, and I honestly saw the cover, thought it was beautiful, and then read the inside flap and thought, this is the book for me. So the book I'm talking about today is The Last Cuentista by Donna Barba Higuera, and I really loved this book. So The Last Cuentista follows Petra, a young girl. She's about 12, 13, I think. And she and her family, at the beginning of the book, are about to board a ship that will take them off of Earth. Because... Now, okay, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong because I forgot to look this up. I don't know if it's... I've always heard Halley's Comet, but it's spelled Halley's Comet. And I don't know why. Anyway, that particular comet is coming back to pass by Earth, but instead of passing by, its trajectory is changed, and it's going to hit Earth, which, if you don't know, that would be the end of humanity if it happened. And it opens very beautifully with Petra speaking with her abuelita, whom she affectionately calls Lita, and her Lita is telling her a story about the comet in a sort of mythological sense, that the fire snake is returning home to its mother. And just this opening alone, it's like a beautiful story, beautifully told, and you like how Lita tells it. Or I did. But then you sense the gravity of the situation. It's going to take well over 300 years to reach Alpha Centauri, where their new home planet is going to be. And what I love about this story is that it's a very vast idea, handled so well and so intimately. I think you're only following this one girl throughout her experience, and the things that she keeps with her, the stories that she keeps with her, come into question. Hence the title, The Last Storyteller. And so, bless her heart, she is a young girl faced with the responsibility of carrying a history, and the big theme comes into question of like how important are stories. If we ignore our history, are we only going to make worse mistakes, or is it going to make us better to not have the examples of our past to haunt us? What I love about the storytelling itself, the author does an excellent job of pacing. I think with such a big story, it's not a space epic, but it's in a sort of epic setting. It's on a new planet, and at no point do I feel like it's too big of a story to be contained in a small book. It's not a very big book, you know, it's pretty small. And yet it's handled so well that as she is trying to solve these problems and help her people and sort of understand what's going on, everything is layered so perfectly. An event happens, and there's not much time for it to die down after that. There's not much reaction time. She just reacts, and then at the tail end of that event, another event happens. So the pacing is very excellent. I never felt bored. The moment I would start to feel like, okay, well, that's happened, but what's going to happen? And then something would happen, and it would like interrupt my thought process of like, oh, what's going to happen next? And I didn't even have time to really worry about the pacing or the structure of the story. It was just engaging the whole time. Because the concept is interesting enough, but I actually feel like a longer book could have made it kind of boring. But given that she only focuses on one character, it was very engaging and very thrilling, actually, at times. I was like, I don't know how she's going to get out of this. Along with the pacing, the stakes are high. So that's kind of what keeps the pacing going. Nothing really comes super easily to her in the sense that she's kind of a go-getter, and she is, you know, a young teenager trying to make things work. And at no point do I ever feel like she is passive, and she has help at times, but it's never really, she didn't do it herself, or like she didn't get there herself. The main character is very interesting because she wants to be a storyteller, and she has all these stories in her head. She is telling stories throughout the book, which was just woven in so nicely. And some of the language that the author used was so smart and so trusting of the reader that they would tell a story and then immediately after sort of reference in world things about characters that related to the story without like necessarily telling you. It was just a subtle like slip in here and there. The stories she was telling never felt silly or out of place. It all was relevant to life, and that's the point of this story, is that the stories we tell bear a lot of importance and can actually teach us a lot, and our history can teach us a lot. And to ignore our history entirely is a mistake. It teaches us not to make the same mistakes again. And despite being a very simple, very contained story in this vast world, it packs such an emotional punch. There are relationships and twists and turns and surprises, but she makes it hard-hitting, and that makes the stakes feel heavier. She writes these children very well, and there's like a tenderness between characters that I found really appealing. And that's another thing I liked about the main character. She has a little brother and parents, and they don't like fight the same way that like you see in a lot of younger portrayed media. Like, she loves her brother, she loves her parents, and that motivation is present, that like she loves them so much. So like perfectly paced with little drops of emotion throughout that really hit hard. And I loved that about this story. There were times when it was funny, when it was light, but for the most part it was handled very maturely, and it felt like, yeah, a young girl could potentially handle this situation that way. And it was just very engaging. I loved it. It's great that this was one of my first books of the year. It really just made me feel like, oh, this is why you read stories. And that's sort of the point, how important stories are. And just makes me feel like I should keep telling stories and whatnot. So if you want to read a book that portrays stories and storytelling with a tenderness and a power behind it, I would highly recommend this book. The main character is engaging, she's very smart, the world around her is interesting, the story is well paced, and there's a lot of heart there. I also really appreciated being a American white girl who only speaks English, that a lot of the story was in sort of her abuelita's Spanglish and just Spanish entirely, where I had to either learn from context clues or learn new words and phrases, and it wasn't spoon-fed to me with a direct translation right after that, which is, I just think, great for me and for a lot of people. If you're interested in reading something more diverse, this is also a good recommendation, I think. I thought it was really well done, really great sci-fi, a fun space exploration, and I learned a lot, and also just felt a lot. It had a perfect balance of emotion and education and engagement, I guess. So if you are interested, I do recommend it, and I thank you guys for watching. Again, YA is good. It is great at times. I would say this is a great, like, fantastic YA. It's something I want my kids to read one day. And you can learn so much from other genres and other age marketing groups in fiction. A lot of what I read is adult fantasy and sci-fi, but branching out like this was good for me, and it was a really beautiful story, and I highly recommend it. But thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and that you have some good stories to read and to tell, and I'd love to hear all about them in the comments. So have a beautiful day, and I will see you later with another video.